Every human. I shouldn't just say them out because you have to use them.
Yeah, exactly.
Say that's good. That's only one hand, so there it is. You
So my
can
dad
spare
said.
one. Yeah.
Do you have to get to hockey tonight?
We are live.
Funny you would say that, yes,
What
but not till 9.
Oh, well, last time
I know
We
you're
are
trying to cut
live.
this down from 2 hours to an
You
hour
got
and
it.
15, so yeah.
We are live.
we are late. Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. It is January 25th at 6 o'clock. We will call the EDA meeting. We need to approve the minutes from the December 14th meeting. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Approve the minutes from the January 11th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. CEDA update. Kaylin?
Yes, hello. Good
Welcome.
morning. Good, thank you. Welcome to all of our new members as well. I'm excited to be here for my first meeting with you all. So looking at the agenda, I'm actually going to jump around a little bit. I'm going to start with the first update, which is the Rural General Use Grant application status. As we talked about, I worked with Jason from Public Works to submit an application for a Compeer Financial's General Use Grant. And we had requested $10,000 to cover the cost of the city water monitoring system, so an update to that to help us track water levels and pressure in the well and on the lift stations. Unfortunately, we were not awarded the $10,000, and I have reached out to their grants team just to get feedback on the application to see what we may have missed, what we could do better on or improve on in the future, maybe what they're looking for in a successful application or those that were awarded the funds. The same grant reopens in May, so they do them biannually or twice a year. So depending on if we have projects that may qualify at that time, we could consider reapplying in May with feedback, or we can submit a more competitive application for that. So I just wanted to provide an update there. And then jumping back up to the upcoming grant opportunities under announcements, there are several other grants that are currently open and are closing within the next couple of months. The first one is another grant actually through Compeer Financial for farmers market organizations. Farmers market organizations are eligible for up to $1,000 to help with marketing efforts or technology advancements, or to help vendors or market staff access training or educational opportunities. So I reached out to Linda, which I'll get to a little bit later in the agenda as well, but I provided her information on this, so may work with her if she's interested in pursuing that grant opportunity. There's also an AARP Community Challenge grant. They have what they're called flagship grants, and you can apply for in between $500,000 and $50,000. There's kind of a wide variety of projects that may match this grant funding opportunity. So I listed a couple in the packet, but it could be creating vibrant public spaces, supporting affordable housing options, supporting community resilience, or improving community health and economic empowerment. So I'm going to see if there's maybe a project we could do that could fit it within those parameters, that we could potentially apply for some funds there. They are looking for projects that benefit residents, especially those 50 plus, just due to the fact that it's from the AARP. But looking maybe how we can help some of our elderly residents, or something that may be just generally applicable to the entire population of Fishkill.
And did you say that that was a matching grant?
That is not a matching.
It's not matching
for that grant.
Okay.
Yes. There's also a grant available through the Department of Public Transformation, which is called Activate Rural Minnesota, and they are seeking projects in rural Minnesotan communities that are creative and community focused and demonstrate the potential to build local capacity for creative approaches to building activation. So for this, they're actually looking for an individual who would want to participate in a 2-year learning lab where they receive $25,000 and be able to do artist-led community engagement projects. So this could be doing maybe murals in the community, or helping activate some of our public spaces, like things in parks or empty lots or things of that nature. So for that, I would have to identify someone in the public who would want to be a participant and kind of engage in that learning lab for 2 years. But I'll see if I can find someone interested, and if they would be interested in pursuing that. And the last grant I listed on there is the Minnesota DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant. This is a grant that provides matching funds, so they provide up to a 50% match, so we have to match dollar for dollar, whatever that we would be awarded. But this would cover the cost of acquisition, development, and or redevelopment of local parks and recreation areas, which could include park trails, picnic shelters, playgrounds, athletic facilities, kind of things of this nature. So I know we've talked quite a bit about either doing something in Cranston Heights Park or potentially updating the shelter over there. I know we also talked about maybe it'd be great to do a pickleball court or something kind of in that central park area, that piece of land the city owns. So just exploring different opportunities, maybe getting quotes for some different types of facilities, and then meeting with some of our local community groups to see if anyone would be able or willing to donate to the city to help provide us with matching funds. So just kind of evaluating all those opportunities and seeing if there's anything that we could go after and potentially get funds for to get some cool projects done here in Goodhue. On the same subject of grants, I just also wanted to put a reminder out there that the League of Minnesota Cities still has their Grant Navigator program. That is where the city of Goodhue could apply for up to $5,000 through the League of Minnesota Cities. And we could use that $5,000 to hire a grant writer to actually write a grant for us to complete a project. I would say this would typically be for grant applications that are a larger undertaking that may take, a substantial amount of staff time. So something maybe I couldn't complete in my 2 days a month, or something I couldn't, maybe Jason and I don't have the capacity to do together, or Josh or I, or something like that. So looking for big grant opportunities that we could go after and may need. One of the things that does come to mind for this, I know there's been some talk about the sewer plant, updating that. There's been conversation on legislation and bonding, but if that doesn't work out, potentially using some funds to hire a grant writer to apply for a grant to update our own facility here in town. So I'm actually going to reach out to Reese. I know they have a grant writing team at his firm that could, specializes in those types of projects, and seeing what their rate is, how much it would cost, what they think our approval odds would be, some of those things to have a better grasp on what a project could be, and then seeing if we wanted to go after those LMC funds to get $5,000 to hire Reese's firm to maybe write a grant for us. So if there are any other grant programs or ideas or projects you think maybe we could use those funds for, I'm open to ideas as well. We're not tied to anything right now, but in order to access the LMC funds, we do need a project in mind to ask for the money. So just to keep that in mind. Awesome. And then the last thing on the agenda tonight is just the 2023 Farmers Market. So as I mentioned earlier, I reached out to Linda, sent her an email. I gave her the link to the application for the Farmers Market Organization grant if she's interested in pursuing that. I'm also trying to identify a time with her where we can meet to talk about the location for this upcoming year. It had been a conversation a couple months ago, so just following up on that and making sure we have a location for this year's Farmers Market. There were also some ideas at the last one about potentially opening it up and making it even a market for, people to sell their creative goods. I know there are people who do the Goodhue Christmas market who sell, homemade dog toys and things like that. So expanding into some of the more retail things as well as fresh produce, just to potentially get more foot traffic down the market. And then I have the calendar dates. I'll be here in February. I'll be here on the 8th and the 22nd for the meeting that day as well. So if you need anything, let me know. I also have business cards to hand out for all the new people if you want to, and Patrice and Jason too. I have my business cards for you if you guys need them. You can shoot me an email or give me a call at any time.
Good.
Awesome. Any questions on anything?
Thank you, Kaylin.
Of course.
Thank you very much. Okay, other business? Do you have anything, Jill? Nope. Anybody else? Okay, so could I get a motion to adjourn the EDA meeting? Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We'll stand for, we're going to open the City of Goodhue Council meeting. We'll stand for the resuscitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. On the agenda, I would like a motion to amend it and move something, please. So item I, the new agenda format, I'd like to put that up above the engineer Reese. Okay, we're just gonna move it up, just to talk about that a minute. Anybody else have anything?
So you're saying, I just have to understand that.
Yep.
Okay, I've got H as the new, this is the old one.
That's the old one,
Okay.
sorry.
Did you want them, do you want this one?
No,
I'll send it to you.
Okay,
that's all right. Okay, I is new agenda
format, correct.
Correct, and you want that moved up?
Yep. First under new business, please.
Okay, I'll move.
Okay, second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, all right, Reese is not here this evening, but he did put a report in your packet, so be sure to look that over and read it, please. Okay. B, Chad.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me here tonight. Actually got Kevin Hoagland here. He's from
And I
Stan.
didn't do it.
He's from Stantec. He's our lead design
That's okay.
consultant. So I'll have Kevin go through here a few details here in a minute. But I guess more or less, kind of what we're here for tonight is, we had our public meeting this summer for the project down at the Lions building. I just kind of went over things that was more of a higher level with like the layout and what the final look of the project is going to be. That's kind of more when we're in the preliminary design phase. Since that time, we've transitioned into final design. So we got a little bit more detail, I guess, to share with you tonight. Specifically how the project will get constructed, and we've got some stages worked out. We've been working with the county on this, so they're aware of it as well. But just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about local impacts, possible, where the traffic is going to run. There's going to be times when we're going to have traffic restrictions, both on County 9 and on Highway 58. So just kind of go through that tonight and get any of your feedback along the way. I know we've had a couple meetings recently. We met a few weeks ago to go over some of the utilities on the project. And I know there's a water line that Kevin's gonna mention here too, that'll have to be relocated in advance of the project. And then, maybe if you could give an update, kind of where things are at with that trail too, at the end when we're done here, so. With that,
All right,
Kevin.
thanks, Chad. So we wanted to start out and just kind of give you some background, some history on the project and kind of how the project developed to begin with. And I think most of you know that this intersection is a very concerning intersection in terms of safety and the crashes that have occurred. With this graphic here, you'll see we went back and there's a 5-year analysis that MnDOT does where they look at intersections and whether to fund them and move forward with safety projects. So in this intersection, in the last 5 years, we've had 1 fatality, 1 serious injury, 3 minor injuries, 5 possible injuries, and 8 property damage crashes. So we've seen 18 crashes over the 5-year period, and the crash rate here in this intersection is 16 times higher than the average in Minnesota for this type of intersection. So that's substantially higher. And the fatality and serious injury rate is 33 times higher than a typical intersection. So that puts this as a very high priority intersection for the district to do something about it. And you can see just on the bottom of the graphic, we have some typical crash patterns. When we have these standard intersections where we have stop control and just the 4-legged intersection, we tend to see those right angle crashes. We see rear end crashes, and also then it's that left turn crash. And The big concern here is that high-speed roadway. When people are traveling, somebody may stop on the side street, proceed because they didn't see a vehicle coming. There's various factors that come into play there, but that's where you really get into those serious injuries. And the key then is to try to move forward and can we implement a solution that eliminates those serious high-speed crashes and improves the safety of the intersection. Next slide. And so as we start to look at what are the different types of alternatives for this type of intersection, that's where MnDOT did a safety analysis and looked at, if we convert the standard intersection to a roundabout, we're typically going to see a 69% decrease in right angle crashes. You'll see an 83% decrease in left turn crashes, and a positive 80% decrease in fatal and serious injury crashes. That's really the key factor, is removing basically those high-speed fatal and serious injury crashes. And so, looking at this, roundabouts have lower approach speeds. When you come into a roundabout from either direction or either of the four directions, they're designed such that they force you to slow down because of the curvature. So by the time you're getting to that roundabout, you're moving at about a 25-mile-per-hour speed and proceeding maybe through the roundabout at 20 miles per hour. So it brings that speed down, and that's not only for vehicle safety and the conflicts that vehicles present, but you've got pedestrian safety. There's pedestrians that could cross in this area. So it's all modes of transportation and really improves the overall intersection safety factor. And so MnDOT ended up applying within their own agency. The district applied for highway safety improvement funding and received funding specifically to improve the safety of this intersection. And that's how the project got funded and is moving forward. Next slide. So with that, this is a picture of the current concept that was developed for the roundabout. What you see here is yellow represents the pavement, the bituminous pavement that would be paved. And you'll see this is a single lane roundabout, so it's all single lane approaches, just one single lane around the roundabout and single lane exits. The reason I point that out is if you go around the state, there's many different intersections that have roundabouts now, and you'll see some where there's multi-lane because it's a higher volume of traffic that's moving through and it requires multiple lanes. What we see with those, we still see a very serious reduction in any of the serious injury and fatal crashes, but you might see a few more fender benders, people trying to figure out moving through the roundabouts. Multi-lanes tend to have a few more. Single lane roundabouts like this tend to be just fine. We don't expect that we'll see any dramatic increase in that, but there will be some fender benders as people start to learn how to run through the roundabout. But generally, this type of roundabout operates very well throughout the state. If you look at the legs of the roundabout, you see the red sections. So those are raised concrete medians. So there will be a separation between the northbound, southbound traffic, eastbound, westbound, as you approach or leave the roundabout. And then in the center island, you'll see the green dot in the center. That is either some type of landscaping, grass, some treatment that is like a mound that will be in the center of the roundabout. The reason it's mounded is that as you approach the roundabout, we don't want people distracted by looking at vehicles on the other side as they might be approaching. We want them to focus on vehicles coming through the roundabout to the left. That's really their only concern is, are there vehicles to the left? If not, I can proceed around the roundabout. So you mount it up to try to kind of provide a buffer there visually. Then you'll also see kind of a dark ring around outside the green dot. That dark ring is a truck apron. So as a large semi comes in and starts to move around the roundabout, the tail end of the semi will go up on that truck apron, and it'll be a concrete apron, and there will be a slight curb and gutter, but it's mountable, so the truck can just go up on that and go around. So we ran truck turning movements through this. Now this is an oversized, overweight vehicle route for MnDOT, so we expect large vehicles to get permits to come through here. So it needs to accommodate the large trucks that are gonna come through, plus you've got ag partners and other large vehicles. So we've run the turning movement count or patterns through here to make sure those are all accommodated. Then you'll also see on the raised concrete medians near the roundabout, there's pedestrian crosswalks. So this whole roundabout will have a pedestrian facility all the way around it. So anybody coming from any direction can move around the roundabout in all directions. And that system then will tie into your trail over in the northwest quadrant.
Which also allows bicyclists, if you're on like County 9 and you might be comfortable riding with traffic on 9, but not through the roundabout itself. It'll give you an opportunity to kind of get off. There's a little, kind of like a slip ramp for bicyclists. So they could get out and walk their bike around the roundabout and then cross that way, across 58. So kind of two purposes. It's a multi-use trail.
So on the west leg of CASA 9, you have the storage facility and the truck car wash. We've talked to those owners. At the public meeting, we had a good discussion. And in terms of the truck wash, there's a restriction that because it's a county state aid highway and the county's going to be funding that with state aid funding, state aid requires that an entrance to a business can be a maximum commercial entrance of 32 feet. So we'll be installing a 32-foot access for the truck wash. And then you'll see over next to that is an access for the storage facility. And so as we've talked to the truck wash owners, we put that access focused more on where the trucks would turn in and go right to the truck wash. And then vehicles can turn in and move over to the car wash. So it'll accommodate those movements. And then we actually took and did turning movement diagrams to show how semis will be able to turn in and go in there and into the truck wash. Now, as you look at that, we've also talked to them and said that whole south side of County 9 will be a mountable type curb and gutter. So again, it'll be that sloped type curb and gutter. So any truck that turns in and needs to use more than just that entrance will have the opportunity to drag its wheels over outside of that entrance. So there won't be any restrictions, so to speak, on trucks turning in there. But just that's sort of the rules we're dealing with state aid. But we're able to accommodate, and the truck wash owner was fine with our diagrams and what we proposed, and so we've been through that quite a bit. And then in terms of the drainage around the roundabout, on the south leg, there are the large box culverts that cross Highway 58, and those will not be touched as part of this project. You'll see that the end of the construction project there is just north of those culverts. So those large big ones down there will not be touched. The large culverts that are under County Road 9 over on the east leg, those will be extended to the north to accommodate the extra width of the County Road 9 roadway. It won't be much. It's maybe, I think it was 6 to 10 feet. And so it'll just be another end section that will be placed on existing culverts, and then the aprons will be replaced, and it'll just extend out another, like I said, 6 to 10 feet. And then we'll regrade the ditch a little bit there to accommodate that construction. And then on the north leg of Highway 58, there are another set of large culverts that cross 58 up there. Right now, those culverts have settled, so the aprons and the first end section have settled and are disjointed. So MnDOT is going to have us remove those, regrade the area, and then replace them. So it'll just be a removal, replace. It'll remain the same as it is today. It's just a maintenance issue that we'll clean up with this project. And I think I mentioned the trail. So I think I hit pretty much all of the areas. At this point, we could take a break and just answer any questions you might have in regards to the layout if anybody has anything.
So the layout as it is, where the big sign is, says Goodhue. That's not gonna be affected?
No, that won't be affected.
Oh, that's good.
One thing I should mention, though, there is the overhead power line that runs on the north side of the project, and there's a power pole that's in that northwest quadrant, kind of not near that side, but, you know, it's right into our project. And that power pole, my understanding is it actually just got recently replaced. That will have to be removed, because it's gonna be right into our new trail area. So we already talked to Excel, and they're aware of it, and so it'll just be, you know, move further to the west when the project happens. But that's, you know, it's actually fairly minor.
Who gets that expense, moving that for
Excel.
Well, they do,
Because they're by permit on MnDOT's right of way,
okay,
so they have to pay for the.
that's good. It'll cost a lot to move Paul.
When we move that water line too, do we have to go way to the north with that then?
Yeah,
When we move that?
we'll get to that slide, there's
Okay.
more details, so if we could wait on the water main.
I just got one question.
Yep.
And we talked about, it, I can't remember, but that one has what, our street light on it also? You're gonna have new street lights around the entire thing, correct, for the
Correct,
public to understand?
yes. that's
That
a
one
good
will
point.
disappear and then it'll be lighted through that intersection, right?
Correct. The whole roundabout will have MnDOT standard lighting that is typical for roundabouts because of the safety factor for pedestrians and vehicles. There will be that big overhead MnDOT lighting, so the whole intersection will be lit.
So at the last meeting we had together, I raised this question that we've emailed about municipal consent. And so I was gonna try and tie up that loose end. Is this the right time, or do you want me to wait till?
Yeah,
later?
bring it up.
Okay. So at your last meeting, I think it was your last meeting or 2 meetings ago, I had said that typically when MnDOT builds a facility on a MnDOT highway, on a MnDOT right of way, and that facility is entirely within a city, and that facility changes access or requires right-of-way acquisition or changes traffic capacity, traffic volume capacity, what's called municipal consent is required. Basically, the city in which that facility is going to get built has to agree with that facility being built in your city. There's a process then if a city doesn't agree with that, that's pretty atypical, but it does happen that cities have concerns or don't want to agree to a MnDOT facility. There's a process then for working that out. So that's what municipal consent refers to. This project obviously triggers maybe all of those triggers, right? I mean, it does change access somewhat. It requires some right-of-way acquisition, and it does change traffic capacity at that intersection. So all of those triggers are met, and so at your last meeting, I said, where are we at in that process? Has MnDOT come to the city yet? Have they asked you for consent? There's an exception, though, to when a city has to do that, and the exception is when the MnDOT facility is for traffic safety purposes. They don't have to ask for consent to build things to make their highways safer, even when it's in a city. And I've learned, I tell you candidly, I've been educated about this. MnDOT takes the view that roundabouts are always, or part of the reason for roundabouts is always traffic safety. And so they don't need municipal consent when they do projects like this. So I just want to tie that loose end up. I had raised the question with you if you've consented or been asked for your consent. So MnDOT's view is that they don't need to do that. I don't say that as an adversarial thing at all. I don't think that's the case at all. Most cities like to see, I mean, these are generally viewed as improvements in traffic functionality. So they're not typically controversial, but of course you may have landowners around them that have concerns that bring those concerns to you, and that's the reason that cities care about municipal consent. So I wanted to tie that up. I don't know if there are comments about that, but that was something I'd thrown out there and hadn't had a chance to circle back to the council with on.
No, appreciate it. I think, yeah, it's everything consistent with what we emailed about, so.
Yeah, okay,
Yep.
good.
All right, any other questions?
So do we have to have one or not?
Yeah,
I mean,
so.
We don't have to.
Yeah, well, where there's a law that covers this, and where the law requires that MnDOT get your consent, MnDOT has to get your consent. It's not something that you can just say, we don't need to do that. You have to be asked. And there are some cities that just don't act on that, and if you fail to act on it for a long enough period of time, you're deemed to have granted your consent. But the question is whether they have to ask you for it or they don't. They, again, take the view that roundabouts don't trigger the need for municipal consent. I'm saying they take that view because I've never been asked as a city attorney whether that's the view that I have. I get their point. I mean, there is clearly here, they've presented to you the facts about traffic safety here and how this is gonna improve that. And there's no doubt the statute says where MinDOT is building something to address traffic safety, they don't need municipal consent. So their view is this doesn't trigger it. I'm just reporting to you that I had raised the question about that. Their view is they don't have to ask for it, and unless you tell me to go and dig into that further, I have no reason to argue with them about it, so.
I think we're all pretty much in agreement, it's gonna be a good addition.
Oh.
Because when I drive up to that corner, I always look twice both ways, because I think, how do these accidents happen?
Yeah.
But that's why they're called accidents.
Yeah.
You know.
And I totally get that point, and I agree with that point. I would just tell you, typically the reason cities care about that, if they ever do care about it, is not so much to kill a project or to say no to something, but rather just to have some leverage to negotiate something. I'm not sure that there's anything here to negotiate. I'm not sure you have any landowners that are concerned about it, or you have any reason to disagree with this plan, but that's typically the reasons that cities care about that, so.
Do you know, is the billboard, is that on the state right of way? Or is it half on the state and half on the city? We're not sure about that. The big billboard that's to the south.
To the south.
To the south, do you know?
Which one? You mean the one in the northwest quadrant?
No, the southwest. It's like by Reagan billboards.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not positive.
Yeah, there's a question about where that is sitting, and if that, we need to kind of know where that's located. And I didn't know if it was on the state right of way, if you knew that or not.
We have the right of way and we have the detail. If I could get back to the computer and look it up and look at the lines, I could tell you.
Yeah, that would be great if you could get back to us. We've had questions about
Sure.
that, and
Just so I keep up with the story, is that billboard you're talking about not depicted here in this aerial, or is it somewhere on this aerial?
It's further back to the south.
yeah, it's
Okay.
a little bit,
And the orientation here is north is up and south is down.
Right.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So if it's not, what's the adjacent property right up to it? Is that a commercial property?
It's stairs.
Mm-hmm, stairs, yep.
Right, well, we can get you that answer soon and,
Okay.
provide it to Bill. Okay. All right, next slide. What we want to do now is just get into the construction staging. So as we've taken a look at this, we have two main stages that we want to use to construct the roundabout. We realize that we somewhat want to keep it open to traffic, but at the same time, when you're constructing a roundabout, it's quite beneficial if you can close down more of the intersection to do more of that actual roundabout all at once. You get a construction. So what we plan to do is start with stage one and do the majority of the east leg of County Road 9 and half of Highway 58 to the north. And you'll see in the next slides why we're chosen to do that. And then we would keep Highway 58 open through the intersection. Now, vehicles on Highway 58 would not be allowed to turn at the intersection. They would just be a through movement for both northbound and southbound. We also are showing some construction on the west leg. So there's an opportunity for the contractor to get in there because that leg will be shut down based on our traffic staging. So they can begin doing some construction on the west leg as well. And so traffic on County Road 9, again, is completely closed in both directions, on both sides of the intersection. And Highway 858 is just restricted to the through movement. Next slide. So while this is being constructed, this is the detour. So we've got the east and west leg of County Road 9 being constructed. So for the detour traffic on County Road 9 will basically, if you're leaving the city of Goodhue, you can see on that insert up in the northern part of the diagram, you would be proceeding on County Road 9 eastbound. You'd make a left at Broadway, and then you'd go up to 3rd Avenue, take a right, and go out onto Highway 58, and then you could proceed either north or south on Highway 58. But the detour then would be to head south on Highway 58, and then over on County Road 16, and then up on County Road 4 back to County Road 9. And again, access to Goodhue, if you're coming from the east, would just be the reverse, and you would just go up Highway 58, turn at 3rd Avenue, and then come down Broadway and get to County Road 9. So it's a fairly straightforward detour. And we have talked to the county and the township about these detours. So we've had many conversations about how this is going to, work, and I'll get into a little more details on that after we get into the next stage. So you can go ahead and do the next one. So in stage 2, we will now be building most of the roundabout. So you see that entire west leg is now under construction, and the entire south leg of Highway 58 is under construction. And on the north side, the whole west side of 58 is under construction. So this is nice now that it allows us to do the bulk of the construction all at once, get that main roundabout constructed. Again, for constructability reasons, it really helps in terms of getting the whole subgrade basin and the pavement and all the concrete, curb and gutter and such, all kind of constructed at once. So Highway 58 is closed for the most part with this stage. However, we do have an option here where we're going to keep the westbound County Road 9 traffic open to proceed on County Road 9, make a right turn to go north on Highway 58, and by doing so, they can then turn at 3rd Avenue to get into the city. So if we go to the next slide, so in the detour, so now we have, again, the north, south, and west legs under construction, and Highway 58 closed. So County Road 9 westbound, I just mentioned, you will actually take that northbound right turn, and you can just simply get right into the city on 3rd Avenue. The main detours are County Road 16 to County Road 4 to Highway 58. So let's start on maybe the north side. If you're heading southbound, coming into the city from that far north area, you could stay on Highway 58 and simply come down and turn at 3rd Avenue to get into the city. Or if you're not coming to Goodhue and you're heading south, we're going to detour them down County Road 4, and we'll bring them all the way down County Road 4 to County Road 16, over to 58 where they can continue to head south. And that just completely bypasses the city. But we also have that County Road 9 option that's open. So if somebody's heading westbound, they can use that County Road 9, make the right turn, head north on 58 and into the city. It's not technically part of the detour, but it's an option we're keeping open for those that are coming from the east, traveling west, that want to get to the city. So this way, we've tried to accommodate kind of all the movements necessary here to get to the city. And so there also are unofficial detours that we will expect to see, because you will see people that will just come out of the city and use the township gravel roads. We're well aware of that. That happens on MnDOT projects. And so Chad has already had a conversation with the township about that. And MnDOT will work with the township in terms of looking at options to deal with that. What we'll typically do in our contract is put a motor grader and calcium chloride in as a bid item. And then at any time that it gets rougher, there's a lot of traffic using a certain road, send the motor grader out and put calcium chloride down and treat that and deal with the township roads. So we know we're kind of anticipating that first township road to the north and the one to the south might be the ones that get used, but you never know. So the township is going to keep track this summer of their typical maintenance costs and maintaining those gravel roads. And so if during construction there's an increase and there's additional costs that they incur, MnDOT can deal with that and deal with the township. So we're covering, again, with the township and with the county, and now bringing this to the city as kind of where we're at with our detours construction staging. So with that, I would ask, are there any questions at this point about the detour or the staging?
Mayor?
I get, one of the things, people are concerned about the traffic going down Broadway and past. I mean, the increased traffic and the semi-traffic that has to get to the elevator. That's a big, we have the post office there, we have insurance company, and it is certainly wide enough to handle it, but, also as our road load, that's gonna be a lot of traffic. And what that's gonna do to the street.
So because of Ag Partners and the street, we understand that that's not a county road. But we, I guess, anticipate, and maybe we could use more information on this, that road was constructed to handle, the 10-ton trucks that go through. And so we would anticipate that wouldn't necessarily be an impact in terms of it wouldn't tear up the road. However, I don't know, Chad, you want to talk about your typical policy on?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like a detour agreement, we typically would do that if it is trunk highway traffic that we'd be detouring onto, a local road, then we're required to do a detour agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Since this is just county road traffic, then that would not apply. So fortunately, it's not Highway 58, we're gonna be running up Broadway, but yeah,
Right.
there's definitely gonna be
Some increase.
more traffic from County 9, but.
Yeah, I guess officially, if you look at this, MnDOT would state the official detour is County Road 16 and County Road 4.
Okay.
That's, where they're at, and we're trying to accommodate alternatives to provide the best access we can to the city. But yeah, as Chad points out, it's County Road 9 traffic that would come through that area.
I mean, no doubt there's gonna be impacts here, so I mean, it's just part of trying to get this thing done as soon as we can too, so it doesn't drag things out any longer than it already will, so.
I didn't see any kind of a time frame in it, like generally when they do these roundabouts, is it like 6 weeks or how long is it?
I would say probably 3 months or less.
Okay.
And I think that the time frame, depending on when it starts, we'd certainly want to, and we had possibly talk about with harvest coming up, is it going to be done before harvest once they start? Certainly depends on weather and whatnot, but that's a big issue for Ag Partners too.
We do put time restrictions in our construction documents, so we do try to tighten that up so they don't just get, they get a full season out there and they can rip up the intersection and leave it for 6 months.
Yeah.
So like that one out at 316, that we built just this last year, that big one. That one we didn't start till July and we were done by the end of October, so.
Good.
That one is obviously on Highway 61, so it was just a lot more complicated than this, so.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, so I have a feeling, just from looking at the plans, that there are gonna be some number of users that are gonna have feelings, comments, concerns about the phasing and the detour plan. How does, and some of that will get directed understandably at the city, although it's not a city project, right? It's a county state project. What's the communication plan for sort of directing those people to the right place to direct their feelings?
So if people have comments, they can reach out to me anytime. Just give me a call and you've got my contact info, I think. You can start with that. We'll also be having another, public meeting here later on in the year, usually when we have our, kind of the timeline more nailed down as far as like a starting date and when construction would hopefully be done by. That's usually toward the tail end of final design that we have that, we kind of have everything worked out by that point, so.
Sure.
They could always, people, if they have comments at that time too, but.
Well, generally too, the district has a public affairs coordinator who will probably be involved in terms of, website updates or, different updates and to field questions, so.
And during construction too, it'll be the same way. I mean, we're putting out messages. We've already got a project website set up. People can go on there and get updates anytime anything changes, so.
There's no, it looks like there's no obvious opportunities for bad cut throughs right at the project center. I mean, it looks like you're gonna kind of have to follow the detour, or as you said, you might be on township roads at some point, but
Right.
essentially they're not private property cut throughs that are gonna be a problem, or?
Yeah, I guess
We don't
we
anticipate
Yeah.
that.
can't see that. And, you know, we did look at trying to accommodate additional movements through the intersection during different stages. And it just got kind of messy and it just didn't seem necessary.
Yeah.
And that gets back to, you know, when you look at stage 2, and we're building most of it all in that one stage, that's gonna save us 3 to 4 weeks in construction time. It just gets it done quicker. And that's where, you know, Chad says 3 months. We're saying 3 months for this project is construction time frame, but I'm guessing it's gonna be less than that.
Say hopefully that's conservative, but yeah.
Will the walking trail at all be affected by any of the construction?
Yes, so there's right now you've got a storm sewer pipe that goes under that trail, and it's very shallow. And so as we grade, you know, the new construction and everything to that, we ended up we're gonna have to rip out a portion of that trail and put in a new storm sewer inlet, and it'll actually go into a drainage system that will then outlet into MnDOT's right of way. So that will all be replaced with all new storm sewer, and it'll be lowered, and then we'll repave the trail over that and fix that. So there will be a portion of time where the little section of trail will be impacted, but it should be pretty minimal.
And so my second question is, so on the stage 2, right there, south of 9 on 58, during the construction, will there be a possible emergency use only? So if we have to get emergency crews to, you know, south of 9, so they don't have to go all the way around the roundabout, like if, you know, there's a fire or an ambulance, or, I mean, we all know time is of the essence there, so emergency traffic only?
That's, I guess, it's really difficult, because if we have that all torn up, it's just, how do you anticipate and know if you're gonna need to bring a vehicle through there? And I don't know that we can necessarily accommodate an emergency vehicle through that while it's completely being reconstructed. So I would anticipate they would have to use the detour or alternative routes that they may choose. Now, you know, and typically when it gets down to construction, and I mentioned the MnDOT's public affairs coordinators, and we'll start taking a look and probably contacting emergency services, and so they're aware of the project, so they can let us know if there are specific concerns. You know, we just did a recent project in Winona, and they have Winona Health, the big health center there, and they have an emergency room entrance, and they just said that cannot be ever closed. And so we were able to write in the contract that that entrance has to be open all the time. So the contractor ended up building half of the entrance at a time, but it's always open just for entry, not for exit. So if there are, you know, things that could be accommodated, we would look at it.
I guess one of my biggest concerns is, you know, you have Red Wing Mayo that, you know, most of the time they use 1 to 6, but if for some reason they have to come up 58, kind of puts them out of the detour in that a little bit. You know, I guess if they were to come in, go down Broadway, hit County 9, and then go back up to 6, but just that service area that's in there in case there's something that's going on, it's kind of, you know, a little bit time consuming there. So just something to think about.
And usually when it gets into construction too, our guys are pretty good about, as things start to get open up, I mean, there's a clean 2 stages here, and it's not gonna be, stage 1 is done on this day and stage 2 is done on that day. I mean, they're gonna get bits and pieces of the different stages completed along the way, and sometime they can work to accommodate that in construction, but
Yeah, and I know that's what they did on that, 61-316 and the 61-18. It was kind of.
we built the bypass on the north side there, yeah.
Yep. So that was good. So.
All right, next slide. So just to give you where we're at with the schedule, we're currently in the final design stage, so we are preparing final design plans. And that'll take us from today through to late 2023. So there is quite a time frame there to complete all that. The right-of-way acquisition is currently taking place, and that, they're right now pulling all that information together, and they'll be talking to property owners and then actually acquiring the right-of-way in the summer and fall of 2023. There's only 3 different parcels, I think, that are affected on the project. And we don't expect any complications with that right-of-way. Then we'll talk about city water main relocation. That needs to occur in 2023. And then the bid lighting will occur in December of 2023. And as we mentioned, construction will be spring, summer 2024, depending on what the final decision is on start date and end dates and such. So last slide, you can talk about the water main relocation. So you'll see today there is the existing water main that's in red that goes across the north side of the intersection. And one of the issues is that you'll see that crosses right through the roundabout on basically the driving lane of the roundabout. And so MnDOT does not allow utilities to be located under the driving lanes of roundabouts. That's specifically due to the fact if there's any kind of a breakage in a water main, and then you have to go do an emergency repair, you would actually have to shut down the roundabout to get in there and do it, and MnDOT is not going to shut down a roundabout. So the water main needs to be relocated outside of the actual circulatory roadway, and so we're recommending that blue line as the relocation of the water main. And what that does, it brings it up and puts it kind of right through where the crosswalk would be for pedestrians, through that raised concrete median. And again, it would just, it's deep under the roadway, so it doesn't affect us, but that would be an appropriate location for the water main to be placed. Now, we have a little note on there, and basically what we're saying is, if the city comes in and can get that water main put in 2023, then during construction, MnDOT can rip out the old water main that's existing there during construction. So are there questions on the water main relocation?
The one thing I would add is there's a gas line too, on the south side that's not on there, and has to be moved also. And you're aware of that, I'm sure.
Okay, well, yeah, so we just had our utility coordination meeting, and that actually was just brought up, so.
Or you probably know that too.
I didn't know that, no.
You didn't know that.
Did not know that.
So we are just addressing those additional utilities that were
Yeah,
mentioned
it's
at
just
the
a,
meeting.
there's a 2-inch, and we already had somebody look at moving that last week or 2 weeks, whenever.
Okay,
I was gone, but it's on the south side of the roundabout.
so it would be in the circulatory
It'd be
roadway?
in the circulatory, yep.
Okay, yep, that's exactly the same thing
I
then.
didn't know if you were unaware or it got missed.
And, well, our guys it's probably in our files now.
Okay.
It's not showing up on this here yet, but again, we were just acquiring that new information. But then again, that's a private utility that
It's a private utility.
we can, work with them very easy and get that done. This here is a city issue that the city will need to address.
So that's at a cost to the city to move the water main?
Correct. Yep.
This isn't about the water main, but who takes care of the center of the roundabout?
Well, that's the next
That's
topic.
what I
Read
wanted to
your
bring that
mind.
up tonight because, if you wanna go back to the layout, or I guess Jill.
Yeah.
Go back. So as we get into final design now, or we're in final design, I guess we will be looking at seed mixes to actually use out there for when we're done with this thing. typically we try to use something in the center island that is more low to minimal to no maintenance. So they typically recommend us using, it's like a native prairie grass mix that you don't have to mow. Not only it saves staff time to have to go out and try to mow that, keep it maintained well, but it's also a safety issue with people driving, equipment out to the middle of the highway. So that's kind of what our thoughts are on that. And then, I guess just kind of wanted to know your thoughts on like the west side, as far as what you guys, or Jason, I guess your guys, I guess, would plan to mow. Cause we can plant mobile grass, I guess, wherever you want, but otherwise, if not, then we would, traditionally, we would use more of a, kind of a low maintenance prairie grass. Be like native, so.
I guess that's entirely up to, we've been mowing all that west side of the ditch, all the way along the Ag Partners line. I'm not against having a native grass in there as long as we keep the parsnip and invasive weeds out of there, which, I mean, we could always spray for it, but then there's also a waterway that runs through there that you can't be spraying through. So if you want to put in grass that we can mow, we've been mowing it. However, if you guys want to see something more native, maybe that's something you need to think about.
Are there other roundabouts close that have the native prairie grass that maybe this summer, spring, we could look at just to see what it looks like aesthetically? We don't have to make that decision anytime soon. So,
I think Wanamingo, I believe,
okay,
is like that. That's one I could think of off the top of my head. That's the closest probably. Otherwise, I guess 360 and 61 is probably similar to that.
okay.
That answer your question, or?
Mm-hmm, yeah. A field trip.
And then as far as what you guys will be, what will be cleared for snow, I guess the correspondence we had was that the sidewalks and everything around the roundabout would likely not get cleared in the winter. Other than potentially the trail, I guess, on the northwest. Is that kind of
That's
sound
what we
right?
talked about earlier.
Yeah,
I think it's not safe to take with the bad roads, to take a lawnmower and try to clean out them. And people don't need to be walking out there anyway in the wintertime. But the trail, try to keep that open because a lot of people walk. And that was what we talked about months ago already, so.
To the extent the city's gonna maintain stuff, that, I'd ask you about a co-op agreement about the money part of it, but there'd be an agreement that would address that, or?
that's really up to you if you so choose to maintain it. If you don't, I mean, it's something that we typically don't do that for maintaining the sidewalks around there, so. As far as snow clearing and that type of thing, so. If you don't wanna do it, you don't have to, we're not gonna force you to, but we would not have an agreement for that.
I just meant for purposes of permission to go and beyond MnDOT's right of way clearing snow.
I guess, yeah, the majority of that, I guess, would be, some of it's within our right of way, I guess, and some is not, but,
But to the extent it's not, it's county, right?
yeah, on the west leg,
So you get my point, right? I mean, the city
Right.
going out on everybody else's right of way and clearing snow is something I'd prefer to have a little something saying that's okay.
I prefer that.
So as far as clearing snow, when the state comes in, are they just coming in and circling around and doing their roads? They're not extending to the north or west? Is that the county's responsibility to come in there?
Yeah, the
And
county
so-
would have to come in and do their ledge.
Okay, so I'm right there, okay.
So I guess the only thing that we should really be worrying about clearing is just the trail system.
And then along with
Yeah, so per my email, the city engineer Reese, who I assume you guys know, it was tasked by the prior council, prior to the new council, with surveying that. I don't know, Jill, if you know where he's at on that, or his firm is at on that, but
Yeah, not other than what I had last sent to you. He's at a conference right now, but he's at the last stages of it. That was last week, so.
I just talked to him, Jill, and actually he told me the same thing, was at the last stages of it,
Yeah.
so.
So I would say an update probably in the next couple of weeks, or a week or so.
yeah, and I was just gonna say, I mean, we anticipate, this is one of those sort of funny ones where it's an easement to maintain an existing facility, right, an existing trail, so I guess candidly, we don't anticipate Ag Partners having a problem. I don't know if we've talked to them, but I
Yeah.
presume they're not
Yep.
concerned about keeping it there, so.
So I reached out to Ag Partners, and without my notes right here, I don't remember the person's contact, but I get to give him Reese's contact, and he acknowledged that it was kind of on a handshake type of thing, and they're more than willing to work with the city and work out the agreement and keep moving forward with everything. It was a very nice conversation.
I guess, Chad, I only got one more question, and this is for you guys also. Now, I know you're gonna have a contractor on all typical construction projects, it would be warning lights or slash, I don't know what else you guys use, safety signs. Deb's gonna do the signing. Now, most of the detour is gonna be on a county road, especially through, County 9 and through town there. If Josh were to call me and Todd, because there would be a storm, barricades are tipped down, people are trying to get through, we came in to fix it, would the MnDOT recoup them costs of our labor and time for doing that? Or would that just be, I mean, cause technically it's a county road, but then there could be also other things that could need to be done. Is that something we need to keep track of, or no?
I guess I have not seen that before. We've actually paid locals for doing something like that, so, yeah.
In case the question came up, I wanted to know what your thoughts were.
I would say no.
Okay.
Just have to work with our construction engineer on it.
Right, I mean, it would only be a weekend emergency type thing.
Sure.
The question could get asked, and I wanted to know what your answer was. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
That concludes our presentation.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I jumped around.
Yeah, Mayor, did you wanna jump back to old business?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. We'll do that.
Or meeting
Yeah.
minutes, maybe.
Okay. So we'll go, thank you very much for coming, we appreciate it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move back to we need to approve the minutes from the January 11th, 2023 meeting.
Oh, that's right, that was a big one too.
That was a big one. Mm-hmm. A chance to look them over. Lot of appointments.
I just have a question about the assistant mayor. I didn't realize that I nominated myself. I mean, I don't care, but it's kind of like, oh, that doesn't look good.
Well,
So it doesn't have to be changed.
does it have to be changed? It's okay.
The
Well, you
minutes,
just,
the minutes have to say what happened.
you
not what
really
should've
wanted it. You
Right.
really wanted it.
So yeah, that's obviously a typo by me. Will look. Well, I probably look right here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to.
I probably was typing O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And I do have to stop and think about Mr. Schmidt there, because
Yes.
I still call his wife O'Reilly because,
Yeah.
one that's instilled for 40 years.
All right.
That's probably where I got it from.
Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
With that update. Yep.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, old business, gas commission appointments. So we had that from the last meeting. So we have Mr. Wayne Gadient, Mr. Michael Brunkhorst, and in my conversation with the attorney, it's typically the mayor that also sits on the gas commission. So I'm certainly willing to do that, and unless anybody else wants to do that. Otherwise, those would be the three appointments to the gas commission.
And if anybody has any questions about why Keith Carlson isn't on there, it's because in the minute, in the bylaws, you have to live in the city of Goodhue.
Mhm.
So that's why we
Yeah,
have to
that's-
replace him.
We had to replace him.
I suggested to Wayne he could build a house here.
Hmm?
We didn't get any reaction to that.
Any questions, comments, or could I get a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Police Chief wage, we met in a closed meeting with the Police Chief Joshua Smith. Three of us did, and we had an excellent review. It was a good conversation. We moved into a public meeting, we opened it, and he was approved for his wage increase. Okay, that's all I need. We don't need
Yeah,
a
and-
motion on that.
No, you don't, and Mayor, just to make it clear for the benefit of the others, just the law that says you get to close a meeting to review the performance of an employee, just says at the next regular meeting, you need to give a summary like that of what you talked about, so that's the reason for that.
Okay.
Part of our reason for, or probably most of our reason for raising it as we did, was we're trying to get him up towards where he's in equivalent to surrounding communities, which is still behind. But we're working on it.
Good, thank you, Joe. So, new business, we moved new agenda format, just quickly, as you can see, we've changed the format a little bit. What we're trying to do is really streamline, so we're not, the meetings aren't going too long. The new business on the ABC, those kinds of things, we're listening to people, then we're taking them under advisement, so we're not necessarily making a ruling on any of those at this point. When you get down to, you'll notice that the mayor concerns and the council concerns, that has been eliminated. Those should be agenda items. So council, if you have something that is brought to you, bring it before Jill. We can look at that and decide if you can add it to the agenda, anything that you have, okay? Public comment, we really want to get back to that format that was previously approved with that 3 to 5 minutes. So if somebody comes in, they need to fill out that form that is on the website, and then they can approach the podium. And if we can't finish in that time, then we would certainly redirect them to add it to the agenda next time where we would have more time. So that was the premise of that.
Yeah, if I can just tack on, it's related, not the same exact thing, but just to acknowledge, you and I had talked about also that, so I'm your relatively new city attorney. I'm not sure that it makes sense for you to have me come here for every one of your meetings. You pay me, frankly, to come here. I'm happy to do Zoom, and Zoom works pretty well. So we had talked about maybe I could Zoom into your meetings unless there's something in particular that you need to see my face in the room, which I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see y'all, but I don't know if you need to pay me to come here to every meeting. So unless council objects, I think that's a good plan. I'd rather save you money than have you
Right.
drive. So,
Great.
so maybe that'll be the plan, that if Jill sees something big coming up, I'll be happy to be here. So,
Right. And we also just talked about if there was something that came up, we could maybe address it before the meeting. If it was something that came up at the meeting, we can table it, consult with him, and then bring it up at the next meeting. Instead of, it's a lot of back and forth. And it's cost effective to do it that way. Okay?
So, but you don't have to be at every meeting, do you?
Yeah, no, Mayor and council member, I guess I'm saying I'm happy to be on Zoom if you wanna, that saves you 2.5 hours of driving, paying me to drive. So I'm always happy to do that. I'm always gonna be available on Wednesday nights, but no, if you don't if there's no reason, if you got just regular business and it's an easy agenda, I don't even need to do that. You can just not, you don't have to pay me a nickel. And I think that makes
I
sense.
think that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can take notes
Yeah.
and ask you later if it's not
Yeah.
something huge.
Yeah, I've kind of said without trying to pat myself on the back, I've got 9 cities where I'm the city attorney, and there are several of those that don't ever have me come to meetings. They do exactly what you just said, which is something comes up, they make notes, and they call me the next day. And I think you have enough going on that occasionally you might want me, but that's fine. I mean, I serve you, so however you want to do it is fine by me.
Right. That looks good.
All right, next up, Henry,
Can I just stand here, or do I have to?
you need to go to the podium. Everybody wants to hear you.
Well, I'm representing the Goodyear Community Fire Truck Association, myself and Vice Chair Roger Bolstead. And we recently ordered a new truck, $577,000 estimated. The old 5 that we ordered back in '05, which is gonna be real similar, was $250,000. So, and this truck, we went to look at the factory here at the end of November, and it says this same truck, if we ordered it the last 2 days of November, would be $650,000. Very same thing. The salesman run the numbers. When we had the meeting and we're voted to go ahead and order this truck instead of letting it go up again, so back a year or so ago, we priced it, or back in, I'm forgetting, but anyway, it's $500,000, so it went up $77,000 by just waiting a couple, 2-3 months. The association wanted to wait and look for a used one, and that's their prerogative. That was why we had the meeting and we voted, and that's the way they wanted it. They wanted it. So anyway, they asked me to come to the council. In years past, the city didn't pay for any of the trucks. They just paid for the part of the building was their responsibility, a percentage of it, and the upkeep of the building. But the trucks and all the equipment was up to the association, which amounts to 10 different entities. It's City of Belchester, Belkirk Township. Here I can go through the levies. The City of Belchester pays 3%. Belkirk Township pays 13.9%. Belvedere Township pays 12.9%. Chester Township pays 2%. Featherston Township pays 18.9%. Goodyear Township pays 15.2%. Hay Creek 20.3%. Besa Township 10.3%. And Sombrota Township 3.5%. In years past, we asked the city, or I asked Gary, why they never paid for any of the building or any of the equipment. His reply at the time was they supply all the manpower. Plus they supply all the training, they pay for all the training, all the shots that the firemen have to go through every year or whatever. And for new recruits too, they pay for all that. And I know that at that time I asked them, so what did it cost? What was your cost this year? And at that time, our levy was probably, it was 50,000, or it could have even been 40,000. At the time, Kerry said it was somewhere 20,000 or 22,000 is what the city paid out of their pocket for the firemen. And I thought, well, that's more than, that's question answered. Come to find out that the city does get reimbursed some of this monies for the training through Southeast Minnesota, something or other. And the association wanted me to come to this meeting and ask if we could start the conversation to change the bylaws and let the city or be part of the truck purchases, meaning they went up substantially. So, any questions from anybody?
Mayor, I don't know anything about this, of course, but given the percentages that you're talking about, which are very specific, and just given my experience with, these kind of organizations between townships and cities are all over the state, of course, and they're almost always, if not always, governed by some kind of an agreement. And you're talking about bylaws changing. I bet there's an agreement as well, so, I mean, I don't know what the council wants to do with that, but I think we ought to have the agreement and see what it says, and it may address capital purchases and it may not, and it sounds like your group would like it to address that, and that's
Well,
not
that's-
unreasonable,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
yeah. So, but I mean, that's the starting point, of course, is to figure out what the current deal is, so.
So to get the agreement from the truck
Yeah, I
association
don't
and
know who
start,
would have it, but I presume somebody's got it,
Brett would,
yeah.
Brad Colbert, and he wasn't
Okay.
able to keep.
it was Maple
Yeah.
to come. So the more information that we can get, Henry,
Okay.
that we can look at and really read and then compare the numbers, and I think it's important that Jill be able to really, we need to know the numbers from the city, because we have a new, relatively new council, so, you know, really look at it and study it, and then, you know, it's gonna take us a little bit of time
Yeah,
to
no,
do
I-
that, but
I'm not here
we're
tonight
certainly,
to get an answer
yeah.
one way or the other, I just wanted to present what our dilemma is, and,
Yep.
and they don't, like I said, I don't see trucks going down, and we
No.
tried for, I don't know how long, Jason,
No.
2-3 years to buy a used one?
Absolutely. They're not available for one.
Well, for
And
that
they are.
one reason, and then they're not equipped the way
Right.
our department needs to be equipped.
Exactly.
Very few, I mean, when we went to the factory and toured that, they kept asking, do you need a hookup for hydrants? And the firemen that were along the tour, they said, we seldom hook up to a fire hydrant. We can, but we seldom do, we usually have drop tanks and have water trucks, well, then it changes the whole, what you order,
Yep,
so.
absolutely.
It was really interesting, but, thanks for the time, Roger, you got anything?
Yeah,
No, that you covered
absolutely.
it.
No,
Okay.
You
that-
guys did order that truck.
Yes, we did.
You did
It'll be
order.
Coming in, supposedly it should be here in August of this summer.
And you're gonna keep the old one as well?
No, that one will be sold.
Okay.
Not the 05, the 90 or 91.
91, I believe it is.
I think
Yep,
it is
6.
90, I think we ordered it 90.
So that'll be taken off the top of what the truck costs, and then you'll do your percentage, or how do you do that?
Well, we'll just put it up for bids. And
Yeah,
supposedly near.
The money you get
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's,
probably isn't gonna be that.
No, I
No.
would think not very
the
much.
salesman that we were dealing with, he said anywhere from 15 to 30,000. And a firemen have already approached Near Strand that bought our 78, and they would really like this 90 or 91. But they didn't indicate what they wanted or what they would pay for it, and they asked me, and I said, shoot them 25,000, see what they say. So, you know, that's a start, and they don't like it, but yeah, but like my brother was saying when I was talking to him, he said, what's the used one worth, the more we're gonna replace? I said, 30 at the most, and he goes, are you kidding me? And I said, no, that's, yeah. So,
really depreciate quickly.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming, Henry.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And we'll put some of those things together, we'll
Yep,
get back
I'll
to
go
you,
over
somebody,
it.
yep. Okay, good. Public Works update, you'll see it in your notebook. Jason provided a good update. Do you have anything quickly, or,
I just wanted to talk about the seal coat,
okay?
that's it.
Yep. Otherwise, other than the seal coat, read the rest of it.
The rest of it, and I'm gonna be sending this every meeting,
Yep.
so you guys are transparent.
I went through that earlier. And it was
Yep.
I may not come, if you have questions, always feel free to ask, call or stop down at lunch and, you know, we can help you out. With, if you come going by.
Okay.
So, last fall, the county reached out to us with, possibility working with them and doing some seal coat on some of the streets. I talked to the county last week, they wanna set it out for bids on February 8th. But then he called again yesterday and he needs to know a number about how much money we wanna spend, cause they're gonna put it out for bids this coming Friday, not this Friday, but the next Friday. So I put in the quote that the county gave us, cause they came and measured. Now, it was a little more than what we probably wanna spend, and I talked to Reese. We haven't been doing this for a few years, so we're probably 2 to 3 years behind on some of the maintenance. So, the county, what I had them measure for them to seal coat came up to around 92,000. That was a little more than probably we wanted to spend, but I had them measure, 'cause was at no, I mean, they measured it was easy for them to come up with this price, and they based this price on adding 20% of whatever it cost last year per lane mile. So I'm thinking that's too much. I think we should maybe do around $50,000 worth of seal coating this year to try to start getting some of our streets back into a rotation of every 7 years, the ones that can be sealed and taken care of. So I guess what I'm asking is, you're okay to have the county come in and do around 50 to 60,000? I mean, I'm throwing that up, $10,000 difference. Asking you guys what you think. Most of it would be done. I would like to see the Viola Lane and South Broadway get done this year, and then the rest of it would be the newer streets that have not been done yet.
Right.
11th, 10th, trying to get them sealed up to keep them from getting worse.
And what we spend just doing this is it's preventive maintenance, because
Preventive maintenance.
it's basically, it's a great idea because we know what it costs to replace a street now.
Right. And I spoke with Corey, because the roads will have to be crack filled before they come in and do this seal coat. Because they don't have a maintenance supervisor right now, they couldn't give me a definite answer if we could use their equipment to seal coat it. Otherwise, they would come in and, or not seal coat it, crack fill the holes before they seal coat it. Their crews would come in, but Corey was pretty confident that we probably could work out a deal where we could get the equipment and our crew could crack fill that before the seal coat to save us some money. And I can purchase them crack fill tar. I can get that like I got the mastic last year. And I checked the prices between $1 and $2 a foot. That's around what it would cost. I'd say it'd probably take a couple pallets to seal up the streets. And if I did it, I would probably order maybe an extra one also and try to do a few more around town on the streets that we weren't gonna seal coat, just do some preventative sealing. So I guess what I'm looking for is an okay to do that for this next coming spring.
So are you and Reese going to then sit down and decide which streets are a high priority?
Yes,
Okay.
I pretty much have decided
Okay.
which ones we would wanna do, and it would be 11th. Let me see if I sent the map. I think I gave you guys the map. Oh, right here.
It's still longer.
I'm thinking about doing, it would be 11th, the new part out there that has not been done yet.
Oh, okay.
Part of Joyce Avenue up to 10th Street. And then, like I said, I want to do Broadway and Viola, keep that one, because that one gets a lot of traffic, truck traffic. And then that little stretch of 2nd Avenue that got missed when they did the county seal coat a couple of years ago, right by Jason's house there, that stretch. But I will be talking to Reese to really narrow it down,
Okay.
what would be the most important. And he definitely said, take care of that west side, because some of the streets already, like, for instance, I have 4th Avenue highlighted. He said, you might buy yourself 2 or 3 years of maintenance on that, but other than that one's pretty far gone already, including 3rd Avenue between 9th Street and 6th Street. That's another one. He said, have the county measure it. That's another one that's getting pretty rough. So we wouldn't be doing the streets that are really bad per se. It would mostly be to keep the upkeep maintenance on the ones that are fairly decent. So
Well, your whole goal is to get a rotation.
I'd like to get it in
No.
a 7-year rotation.
Okay. And so Jason's been working really hard at trying to align that, so we're ahead of the game.
Right.
Rather
Behind
than
about 2
behind.
years.
Oh, absolutely.
So we need to start, implementing something. Now my concerns were a little bit, why I wanted to maybe go a lower number this year than other years is because I talked with Reese briefly last Friday, and he said it's gonna cost us between 40 and 50,000 to move that water line. And that's even coming out of our
That much. I knew that was a
street
lot.
fund.
Ouch.
So at first I was thinking we should do 70,000 to kind of keep us up on what he had planned on his pavement plan to keep the maintenance up. But we're gonna have cost with that water line, and then we also have a few alleyways and some sidewalks that are in terrible shape too that need to be address this summer, and some patching, so that's why I'm thinking maybe more around $50,000 in seal coat. So basically tonight, I'm just looking for a number, what you think, and if you, I know it's kinda quick notice, I wanted to bring this up in December, but I wanted to wait until I had the new council and the new mayor here to make the decision, because it affects us in 2023,
Well, the county also wants to know by February,
by Monday.
by
He
Monday.
called me Monday.
Okay, by like yesterday.
Terry, they don't necessarily need to know exactly what streets.
Streets, they just need to know
A dollar
a
amount.
dollar
Well,
amount
yeah.
that we're gonna order,
And
pre-order.
if it's something you wanna scrap and not do at all, and use the money for something else, if we're only out $500.
Right,
For
that's
doing
that's
residents.
more of a must than a want. I mean,
Right.
it's gonna cost us way more later if we don't prep them streets and maintain them.
Well, you can see what happens when you don't.
Right.
Right.
There's several streets in town that didn't get the maintenance and they're in terrible shape.
Yep.
So I certainly see it seems to be a consensus, so the idea is really how much, so,
Right. And like I said, I didn't really wanna drop this on you this fast, but they wanna get it out for bid so they can get the lowest bid.
right.
They were initially gonna let us have another week, and then they moved up their, agenda and their bid process by a few days, so.
Well, I don't know where we're at in the budget. Jill, is there some kind of a number where? Oh, shoot.
By golly, I just have the budget right here.
Right. Cause
Perfect.
mine's in the other book from last year, but
Okay,
yes.
so my notes say we are on a shortfall of $18,000 in the street fund for the budget. So that comes in effect, if you recall, being $31,000 total on the shortfall that we had talked with the past council that we have plenty of money, but we need more. In the actual general fund that isn't tagged for any specifics. So with that being said, at that time, there was like 900, I'll just say 900,000, it was a little bit more than that. So I will share with you that in December, the end number is $1,079,000. That's in the general fund, that is not earmarked specifically for anything, so that's the little bit of the extras. So, yes, there's those things that are just gonna come up that are gonna go there. So it's not the best answer that just to share with you that it's $18,000 short from where our budget was, but it's a step in the right direction, I believe. And to know that we've had even from September to December, from when we did the pre-levy to the final levy, that there's still more money that has come in that hadn't been spent on no extras that have popped up in those 4 months. So
What's our budget for this year?
for the street,
Repair and maintenance, whatever.
With the sidewalks and the alleys, are we talking about recon?
Just a few spots.
Okay, not bad then, okay.
No, it would probably be,
Patching.
yeah, patching.
Okay,
And
good.
some of it we probably could do
it
ourselves.
states
Sure.
140,000, and it should have been 158.
So that's the 18
In
short.
the perfect, how the process had been thought, pre-planned type of
Mhm.
thing.
Even if we had to, we could even cut it down more. Basically, getting them new roads and the new part of town done is important.
Yep.
Because they have huge cracks in them, and they will get worse. So we could even cut out, Broadway and Viola, we could cut that out too, and that would save us another 16 grand. So, what's one more year?
Yeah, and if they're up there anyway, that, like you say, on Second Avenue, that definitely has that patch, that's nothing, that they just put that in.
But that would be nice to get
Oh,
done, because
yeah.
it would keep it
Absolutely.
maintained a lot longer.
Oh, by far, that's
So-
pretty nice there.
And Broadway and that Viola part, that was scheduled to be done last year with the seal coat, and it got missed because Reese never got any feedback
Oh,
from anybody on when to do it. So he said he didn't get any answers. He asked many times and nobody said that they wanted it done. And by the time I started, it was too late to get any contractor in here to do anything with it, so.
So in this 158,000 that we got budgeted for this year, what foreseeable expenses do you see other than that water, moving that water main out there, which is 50, 30, whatever?
Well, I can see that we need to patch over on First Avenue. There's a boil in the concrete, or the pavement, that needs to get milled out and patched. I mean, other than your general maintenance, probably some,
I'm talking like dollar amounts.
oh, dollar amounts?
You got any big dollar amounts other than the moving that water line?
That one, and I'm a little concerned that that's gonna cost more than what he anticipated. Just because that line is so old that's out there. I know when I spoke with Reese, he just thought about moving it from, under the highway, but I do know that that's old, and that's been there a long time.
And when we go to a 6-inch line, are we gonna have to update the hydrant, or will that, we can plumb a 6-inch?
That hydrant, and then see, that's my fear, I'm afraid
Right.
they might end up updating it.
Yep, I would think they almost have to, but I don't know.
It should be
Kinda,
fine, Jason,
yeah.
but, sometimes if they mess with it like that, I'm afraid they're gonna have to replace from that hydrant all the way to the new, because as you saw, MnDOT talked about moving them, bridge aprons out.
Yep.
Pushing them out 10 feet, well, that water line is right there. And there's no trace wire or the only way you can find that water line is where it broke.
Yep.
Many years ago, there's a little bit of a dip, that's it.
Yep.
There's no way to really know where that thing is. So.
Before we get too far, just to add to Joe's question, question with the 158,000, what else is to be spent? So, just let me share with you too, so that number, they all get thrown into the all sprinkled in. So it's labeled on the budget, it's labeled as street and shop. So that would go for the street sweeper, the lawnmower, all of those maintenance. So it's not just $158,000 for street. I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware.
Is
that
that snow removal included in that?
Snow removal is a separate line.
Okay.
So it's one of those things that, at any time, I can help people understand the budget.
Yeah.
It's just that, when you're ready to be able
Yeah.
to see it, it's a long process and there's a lot of information with it. It's just it just kind of gets jammed in there. So I just wanted to clarify that it's
Sure.
not just for streets, it's maintenance,
That's good.
supply stuff too.
Thank you.
I can ask Corey also if he wants to just do the bid, we can throw out a number, and if, he did say we could subtract some after it comes back, because we don't know what it's gonna come back as. I think he just wants a, basic estimate on what you're comfortable with. Because when they said it, they want a round number of sort. 92,000 I told him was too much right away, so.
So if I can ask you a question, Jason, so I know that you did this nice spreadsheet for us.
Yep.
And these are, so I know in the past, Reese had done, a study on the streets.
I have that one here too.
Perfect. So did you compare that, what he did from there on to what you have? Is this spreadsheet that we have, that we were given from you,
Yes,
is that
that's the one.
comparable
Yep.
to what he had?
Yep.
So that sheet that I'm speaking of that Reese had created from us, I believe that was a 2021 study. I think it was before my official time here, but I know that it's been talked about. And so Reese has done a study, and I know that he looked with the former mayor and the former city attorney to go around and look at these streets, and they started documenting and earmarking which ones, and then they had reported that to Reese. So he created this formula for Jason too, so some of you may or may not have.
So that was the 221,000 he came up with if his firm does it with their contractors, and not go on the county contract. That's a considerable, huge amount more money.
Yeah.
So when Joe answered that question of cost, and Reese just basically said he's been working with Ag Partners getting the easement done first before he moves on to the water line redesign. He said to me, he goes, a strong 40 to 50,000. He goes, and that's just an estimate, what it would cost to move that water line. So I also think there's probably another, who knows what we're gonna occur when we finish this, if there's something extra that's not in the bond. So,
Yeah, well, that's gonna take a third of our road funds right
Right.
there to move that water.
so how about I do this, why don't I talk to Corey tomorrow? If he's okay with lowering down the limit, let's start with 50,000. And if we can lower it after we get the bids back, and we wanna go down less, even if it goes down to 20, or even if we just do a couple streets, just try to get some preventative maintenance done on them. And we can do 11th, Joyce, where did I have that? We can do 11th and Joyce and 10th Street. And that would be, they don't print together. It would be 11,000 for that. So 11, 12, 13,000, 14, almost 15,000 for Joyce and 11th. And then that, Second Avenue, we could get it down to 20,000, that would cover the new roads. And then leave it at that for this year.
Right. Yeah, we definitely wanna get something on the ones that are untouched.
Right.
Right.
So, and if you guys are fine with that, we could start with that for this year, and then I'd like to see a plan in place.
Oh,
There
absolutely.
hasn't been one,
No,
and
obviously not, yeah, so.
then for the next year, on out 10 years, we can, add on to that, so. So maybe that's what I'll do. I'm gonna contact Corey, and I apologize, I was gonna bring this up at the last meeting, and my life was, suddenly torn apart.
Motion on that.
Mayor and council, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what I hear you saying is that you need a minimum amount the city's gonna do, not a maximum.
No,
You need a
minimum amount, yeah.
Right, so that you can go to the county and say, we'll at least be in for 20 or
Right.
whatever the number is, because that's gonna affect the bid amount, right?
Yep, that's
So-
exactly right.
so
That's maybe a better way to
I
put
think
it.
a motion to, the city will
Yeah.
contribute at least 20 or 25 or whatever the number is probably in order.
Absolutely. So that would be the number we'd sit at 20 then, or what?
Right.
Yep.
Well, I'll make a motion that we do that, because it's more of a, it's a need, it's not
Right.
what I want, Yep, I'll make a motion to do the 20, to get the bid in, get it started.
And if it comes back astronomically high, like let's just say that
Right.
with inflation, then we'll revisit.
Okay.
Cause we can take away.
Sure.
Great. So could I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work, Jason. We
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate
It is
it.
appreciated.
We've been working on a lot of stuff lately, so,
Yeah, I couldn't do it without all the help I've had
yeah,
either.
well, it
Everything's
doesn't go
great.
unnoticed, so. Police report. So Josh has included the police report in here, so hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to look at it. And maybe, Josh, if you could kind of just hit some highlights on it?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so, first page is just the vehicles, the mileage from last year to this year. I just wanted to show you how much they're driven. The one vehicle, we just got it, so it's about 11,286 miles on that. The 2018 is just a little bit less, and then the other one's just a backup vehicle that is just on standby. Next sheet, pretty simple. It's the same information which is on the next sheet as well. It's just in different locations.
Oh.
Do you need a copy of that, Jason?
No, I'm fine with this here.
Okay, beautiful. And the other one's on an Excel spreadsheet.
And is that the one that had Terry?
Yeah.
Flip one,
This
page,
one.
please. That one.
This one?
There's none of it on it.
There's a couple copies right there. Yeah, right where you pulled from, underneath there.
Looks like
Here's
this.
one
Yeah,
copy.
I looked at
Yeah, you can look at it.
There's one copy.
Okay.
You got one? You do not? I didn't print enough for
Well,
anybody.
that's all
I do
right.
apologize.
I can look, you can go down
can
there, I
share
can
with
share
me.
yours, yeah, right.
So it basically just shows
Okay.
two different graphs, and I do apologize. So it shows two different graphs. Number one would be the call volume, which would be right here up on the top. So everything, so it starts back from 2016 to 2022, and it shows the call volume and the ICRs that were pulled. And ICR is Instant Crime Reporting Number, which every time we have an incident, an ICR gets pulled. So if you get a case, you call me, I pull one of those, I put all the information of people, and it goes to that ICR number. If I do extra patrol or building checks, and I'll put down like downtown building checks, I'll pull an ICR for that every night when I'm checking all the doors and the front and backs of the buildings. So that went, so I mean, if you can see from 2016 where we had 986 to 2022 where we had 2,147, so we're being extremely proactive. The calls did go up, but we're also being proactive, and that goes into it. So it's just going straight up. As you can tell that. The next graph, you can see here, can you see on hers or? Okay, beautiful. So the next graph has the different types of violations and how they went. And you can see how there's a nice little arc there. 2016, 2017, it shows everything, well, all the way from 2016 up to 2022. Shows everything from other violations, Class B violations, Class A, and arrestable offenses. I'll explain those to you here. So an other violation, basically, we're looking at parking violations, citations, parking or driving offenses, stuff like that. So, and that would be all the other offenses in there. A Class B violation would be more like DWIs would be a Class B violation, anything that's going to be more of a misdemeanor offense. And then it goes to a Class A violation, which is the aggravated. You're going to all the way from the assaults to the higher end thefts and up from there. So you can see how it kind of just arcs over. Now, these numbers will change throughout this year, even for this last year, because as we have cases that haven't been charged out yet, when they contact us, like we actually are going to be charging this out, I'll put the statistic, or I'll put the data in, and it'll actually change. So if I had to make a guess, right now it says we're only at 43 arrestable offenses for the year. I would say that that's probably going to be close to last year. That's probably where we're going to be at by the time we're done. With charging, sometimes we have charges that don't come out for almost a year, 2 years at most. Well, I don't want to say at most. I'm still dealing with cases from 7 years ago when I was out of Prairie Island. So for the most part, that's what it shows. So you can actually see we're being more productive. You can see where it did arc up, and then it's starting to swoop
They're all
back
on
down.
decline, which is
And
good,
that's
you know?
good though.
Absolutely.
See, more productive, going down.
Alright,
That's at least
yeah.
how I see it.
That's how I see it.
So there you go for that. So yeah, those will change. So by the time I give you this next year, that number down there, that should slightly change. It shouldn't be anything too high, but it should slightly go up. There is that. As for these updates right here, let's see here. Pages here, right? We are working on just a couple of little things, a couple of things that I can actually talk about, a couple I cannot. So as I mentioned to Terry and to Jason, February 8th, we're going to have a meeting with some of the surrounding emergency management coordinators. We're going to set up a book. Well, we already have some sort of a plan. We're actually putting a real plan together. We're going to look at every scenario, different threats through the town, evacuation plans, where do we go in case of emergency. So that would be February 8th. We'll be meeting down here at the fire hall with the fire chief and the emergency management coordinator. And then we're going to start working on that. Other things that we're working on, some of the lighter note fun things, I'm gonna be working on putting together a bike rodeo for the spring for kids down here at the school. We're hopefully gonna use the school parking lot, I gotta talk to them about that. Working with, I've had a couple people from surrounding in the town, the school, and I've had people down here at the Lions Club asking if we can't do a bike rodeo to get that together for donations, go around town. There's actually a couple places in Zumbrota that might even donate to that, which would be great. Getting bike helmets, gear, and paying for one of the county guys' time to come down here and show the bike safety and put the program together. I think that'd be really great. I don't know the last time that's been done. Another thing that we're working on, of course, with that, which goes hand in hand, which would be National Night Out. So both of those will be going around doing the same exact thing, getting the donations, getting everything set up. We're already halfway set up for that. I mean, we've already put in all the requests for like the helicopter for state patrol, getting the state patrol down here, the horse, the FFA is already signing up to come down for National Night Out. I mean, so, and that'll be on August 1st right over here in Rosie's Park. I have been asked by a couple teachers now, and now by other individuals about putting together a drug interdiction class for kids, getting into the classes, talking about drugs, the vape pens, and so forth. I have never actually had training in that, so to put on a class for that. So I am currently looking for classes that I could possibly find, take, so I can start presenting that to some of our school kids and really working with the community, because there's been a lot of students that are using vape pens in the bathroom pretty much on a daily parking lot. They just go straight out, go around town. So if we could try to educate and cut that off, that would be the ultimate goal. So that's something I'm working on right now, trying to put that together. And that's what I have, unless you have any questions.
The school's on board with that.
A couple of the teachers have reached out to me saying that it's been done in the past, and they want me to do that. I was actually gonna be reaching out to Evan to see if we can, if he doesn't know of some. Now I know there's the DARE program that's put on through the state patrol. It's quite expensive to go to a training course for that, and honestly, my opinion, I don't see DARE really reaching out, hitting the students from nowadays. In the 90s maybe, not now. I mean, I think they still have some of the same pictures on their website that they handed out pamphlets in the 90s. So, but I think we need to find something that's a little more updated for these students. So.
What I can do, Josh, is I have a meeting with the superintendent February 1st, and it's and with one of the school board members, and we're going to talk about partnerships and collaboration between the city and the school. So I'll certainly bring that up.
Thank you so much for doing that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is rezoning St. Luke's Church lot to agricultural to residential 2. So I need to call a public hearing meeting, January 25th, 2023. This meeting is called for the public hearing for consideration to rezone St. Luke's Church land property at 37750 County 6 Boulevard, Goodhue, Minnesota 55027. This land is currently zoned as agricultural land, and St. Luke's Church is requesting for this land to be rezoned to R2 residential land. Yeah, and you have the form in your packet. I did talk with Bob, our attorney, and we did not have a number yet to assign to it, but that doesn't mean that we can't move it forward. We would just add the number once we figure out the numbering system in the ordinances, but we can certainly move forward with rezoning that.
Mayor, typically just take any public comment. I'm not sure that there's going to be anybody commenting, but and then just close the hearing and you can act on the ordinance.
Okay. Any comments? Nope. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to close the public hearing? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now we just need to act on that?
Yeah, and Mayor, I'm pretty sure council gets it, but so your zoning map over there is part of your zoning ordinance. Your zoning ordinance refers to the map. And so the map, when it changes, when you change the designation of a piece of property in your city, you gotta do that by ordinance because it was created by ordinance. So anytime you make a change to the zoning of a property, you adopt an ordinance that does that, and then the zoning map gets changed. And as I think everybody on council understands, this has been a thing that the council, the city's been aware of, the church wanting to build a facility on this property, and the current zoning wouldn't allow that, doesn't allow for a place of worship, and the zoning that's proposed, the R2 zoning, does allow that, and so they've requested the rezoning to allow the place of worship that they've, the church that they've talked to the council in the past about.
I also did ask Jill earlier if there was any cost associated with it. She did call the county and said there wasn't because we already own it. It's just a matter of rezoning it. So there is no cost. Okay? So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we rezone the lot from ag to R2.
Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. You want it easy. There you go.
Question before, I know we don't have the time, but we would like on 11th Street, the end of 11th Street, to be able to build a walking bridge, some sort of
Okay.
bridge across there.
Could I stop you for a minute?
Sure.
That's wonderful. If you want to bring that at some point and get it on the agenda,
Yeah.
when you have a plan,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I just
That's
wanted
great.
to bring it up.
Thank you.
All right.
You planted a seed anyway.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Well,
Okay. All right, next on the agenda is the social media policy.
All right, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Just quickly, I visited with the attorney about this. We do have a Facebook page, we have a website, and so we do need a social media policy for our handout, our handbook, right? Okay, so we're gonna look into that. I looked on other websites, we can look at them. That is not plagiarism if we see one we like. So I would encourage the council to go out and start to look for a social media policy. And so we maybe would have some variety to look at, and then we can move forward there and adopt this. We can kind of tweak it. Is there anything else you would like to add on that?
You know, no, Mayor and Council, that's right. It just fundamentally, you have a Facebook page and you ought to have rules about who gets to post there. And if you get some offensive post, what do you do about it and what are the rules? So I agree with what you're saying.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? No? Okay, next thing on our building permits. Again, in conversations with the attorney, we have a process now where the building permits come to the council. That's typically in visiting with other cities, they have counties do it or they hire an outside firm. So we're kind of holding up the process. So it's been recommended that if we can get the building permits to come to Jill, and then she is in contact with the county, they approve them, look at all of our setbacks, they do that anyway. And then if there's any questions, correct me if I'm wrong, then we can certainly address those, but we can move those along so there wouldn't have to be time looking at, blueprints and those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Correct.
Mayor and Council, that is the conversation we had. My concern about the building permit issue is just that there are building officials in the state, including at your county, and you've contracted with the county to use the county's building official. Building officials get lots and lots of training. The building code is really complicated, to be perfectly honest. And I am concerned, since I've been here, that the council might at some point deny a building permit, say, no, you can't do that. Well, that would require a really sophisticated understanding of the building code to have a basis to deny this. And quite candidly, I've read the building code and I don't get it. I haven't gotten the training. So, some of you might be really well versed in the building code, but if we're not collectively versed in the building code, we shouldn't be deciding whether to issue building permits or not. You've got a professional that you've contracted with to do that. So So that's.
And then they would set it all up and we would just vote on it, or we wouldn't even have to vote on it?
Yeah, so in all of my other cities where you've either got an on-staff building official or you've contracted with the county to do that, or whoever your building official is, that person is authorized to issue or deny or revoke a building permit. Now, those things can come to you if the building official's decision gets appealed, right?
Oh,
So I'm a landowner, the building official says, no, you don't get a building permit. I would have a right to appeal to the city council, right? And then the building official would come and explain why he or she denied it, and you'd have to make a decision. But normally, on a day-to-day basis, they get issued or not issued or revoked, or the building official goes out and says, you gotta do this, you can't do that, and the council doesn't get involved in that. We don't know enough collectively to get involved in
It
that.
would be nice to avoid it at all costs, because we've had some hard feelings amongst the members of the council
Right.
and the mayor previously. So
Right.
if we could go around that, that would be great.
And the other thing, Jason would still be very, very involved in the process, because he would have to make sure that the setbacks are being made, and so before, you know, when things are staked out, he would be looking at those as the Public Works Director. It just streamlines it a little bit, so, and then if Jason had questions, he could certainly contact us as well, as far as where everything's.
Setbacks.
Yes, on the setbacks or anything, because we have had issues where everything's been laid out and then it's been moved or not,
It gets done when we're not here.
yeah, and that can't happen,
No.
so.
Huh.
So that's the premise of the building permits on that, so. If that's something we wanna move forward on,
I think so.
I do
Okay.
too.
Creates a lot less headaches for us.
Okay.
Oh, well, and it's a time consuming thing for it too.
right,
It would be-
so could I get a motion?
I'll
Okay,
second.
second, all in favor?
All right.
So moved.
All right, I regret
Okay.
to sneak away a few minutes
Okay.
before you end, but
Alright.
the little
Yep.
Rugrats and
Well-
Edina won't know how to play hockey unless I show
Uh-oh,
them.
well, we're at a good part here now.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks,
Um,
Council.
You
So,
bet, thank you.
did we have anybody, Jill, sign up for a public comment with our forms? No? Okay, so we don't need that. We need to motion to pay the bills. We can look those over. Okay,
I was wondering about.
On page, this is just clarification. Page 2 of 4, at the very top, is a Rhoda area ambulance. So they assess, every person in good use. And then this is what we pay for them to come in.
mhm.
So drag us out of town.
Yeah, so,
I think that was my question too, was I had something about
yep,
the
it's
ambulance.
based off of the population, and Wayne, Hahn, former, council member, attended those meetings, and they had raised the rates, and it did meet with what he had said. It was like $2.50 per capita.
Hmm,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's what,
That it was raised, or that's how much it is?
it was raised,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. By that amount.
Yeah, I think that was one I was looking at the other night too, I didn't quite understand how that worked, but okay, now I do.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's budgeted perfectly.
Okay.
And the city clerk notary, is that something you're getting?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
And when will that be?
So, the check has been is processing, and that was approved by the mayor to move
Yeah.
forward with getting that, because, we did have a little bit of a hang up with meeting, and when we're closing on lots and stuff, and for, the former council, for me to be able to meet up with them and go to the bank, and it's one of those things that,
Yeah.
it'd be a smoother process.
And in a conversation with the attorney, he said that typically you should have your clerk who should be a notary. So for $120, made sense,
Will
so.
that be something that the community can use?
So that was a thought process, and I didn't want to add it tonight, but that could be something that, we could, but we would have to get resolution and ordinance
Yeah,
and stuff like
but
that.
that's something that would be good. Especially for people who maybe don't bank at First Farmers and Merchants and they need a notary to come in.
And there's never anything in here about any interest on the account for this dollar amount. I was looking at that one night, how does that factor in? That just, we don't have to document that? Because that's a significant amount of money. There should be interest every month on that. That would be
So
like a lot.
that would be under the,
Oh, that might have something to do with the,
that would have been under the receipts, so
Yeah,
probably
that's what I
was
two
looking,
pages ahead, so so it would be page 1 of 1. So I would just like to, if you want to know that information.
well, no, just as long as I know that it is coming.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, there
okay,
certainly
good.
is.
Okay, excellent.
And
'Cause I mean, the number changes, but I just didn't,
to
I
be
never
able to-
seen.
So if you went ahead and looked at the last council meeting, so
Yep.
2 weeks ago, I would hope that you would see an interest there and then a deposit. We could just take a look at that.
Well, the other account, or the other one that we hired to do the bookwork, you know, the check at she goes through that anyway. Beth was
Absolutely.
doing. Right,
Yeah.
so I mean, it,
Yep,
we're aware of
and
it.
it is a couple
Okay,
$100.
absolutely,
Yep,
yeah,
and I
yep.
can certainly tell you what.
Oh, it
what
does,
the
just as
summary
long
is.
as I just never ever seen it in there, I was like, geez, I hope that.
Yep, it is.
Okay, good, yep, that's all I was concerned about.
Are there any other questions of Joe?
It seems like an awful lot of money for a building permit. I suppose that's what it is to do a new house. For the Anthony Hole set, she says, seems like an awful lot
It's
of
like
money.
for a brand new house. So one thing on that too is if you're building a large, and I don't know, I shouldn't say a large project, but the county still has COVID money, so that he's gonna get that a good percentage of that.
Okay, reimbursed.
For him.
Okay,
There's,
good.
Through the county?
through the county,
Oh,
so there's
nice.
still COVID
Good.
money after
So
that.
that does help.
Yeah. there's
That
a-
sure seemed like an awful lot of money.
The new home that's on, I just won't say this.
Yep,
new
don't
building
say.
home on, right off of number 9, that's who brought it to our attention, so this is great.
Yep, right.
All right, wonderful. So, could I get a motion to approve, pay the bills?
I move and pay the bills.
Okay, and a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Could I get a second?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
Okay, I got a question. And, but I meant, I didn't know where we should have brought it up, but, can we have a short close